So no matter what anybody else says about the chemistry between Kate Kane and Sophie Moore, I'm sorry. It's there. There is so much chemistry, it's like radiating from them. As a matter of fact, if Sophie was a pancake, then Kate was the syrup that was pouring all over her. That was a weird visual. Hi guys, my name is Maria Park and this is Approach the Nerd. And in this episode we are reviewing episodes 6 through 8 of Batwoman. I know it's been a while since I did a review on Batwoman, but so much has happened. I was trying to catch up with Charmed. I do a lot of comic reviews. Plus, one of my lights blew, so I had to wait for another replacement to come. So guys, you didn't have like the little cross shadow on my face, but we are here now and we are going to basically talk about Batwoman. So let's do it. Alright, so episode 6 revolved around the villain, the Executioner, which basically, I'm not going to compare him to the comic books, I'm just going to talk about in the episode, he basically was an executioner at the prison who carried out death row sentences. But after a while, he started noticing that it was the same types of people that he was executing, meaning minorities, and they were being racially profiled. And he got angry because the more he researched into what was happening, he came to find out that the same lawyer, the same judge, and the same police officer were involved. So they basically had a pact to basically blame crimes on innocent people. And they could have been like, lower, end thugs and criminals, like shoplifters and things like that. But they were going to prison for like serious crimes like murder and, arson and things like that. And basically ending up on death row and dying. And the executioner, when he found out that he aided in that unwillingly, he got really, really mad and decided to take out the people that he felt were to blame. So that is basically what the episode centers around. But a lot of the episodes, especially like all three of them really, center around the characters. So let me explain. So basically we have a lot of drama between Kate and Sophie, between Sophie and her husband Tyler, between Sophie and pretty much the father, which it's not really drama, but there's like a strange loyalty she has to him, between Kate and Mary, and of course between Alice and Mouse, and Alice and Kate. So there's so many different sections of drama that sometimes it gets overwhelming, but let's just kind of break it down. So in this episode, we did learn that one of the villains one of the criminals that basically was blamed for the murder, which we come to find out is the murder of Luke's father, Lucius, who was killed when he went out. I think he was going out to get ice or something for their party, and he got gunned down. And so this lawyer named Stanton, who was the first person to die by the executioner's hand, who is the one that was in on the pact, was the same lawyer who was with Luke's family for hours and hours trying to find the killer and get justice. But unfortunately, he blamed it on the wrong guy. So the killer, I guess, is still out there. So there's that. But the drama starts with Kate and Sophie. So Sophie pretty much believes that Kate is Batwoman, and she's set out to prove it. She even asked permission to do another special assignment to try and out Kate, basically, which is pretty messed up, considering she won't come out of the closet. But that's a whole other conversation. So basically, she goes on this assignment where they're hunting down the executioner, and they go to this warehouse where the detective who was involved in the pact is basically going in to talk down the suspect, and it's actually a trap, and he ends up getting shot to death. But in the process, the guns that were shooting at him also hit Sophie, so she gets shot. So Kate, basically, she at that point, she's basically going and checking her wound, and Sophie's like, I'm hit. Thanks, Kate, for, when she said she's going to get help. So she basically let to know that she believes, of course, that she's Batwoman. Well, Batwoman basically takes Sophie to Mary's underground clinic for treatment and kind of leaves her there and tells Mary that Sophie's not allowed to leave and handcuffs her to the bed, which is interesting. But yeah. So, long story short, in this episode, they do get the executioner. We do learn there's a moment between the father and Kate where Kate's father basically talks about the reason he actually hates the bat symbol itself, not just Batman, is because if he doesn't have that to hate, then he's going to start hating himself. So that's the symbol, basically, to all of his aggression, rage, and shame, that bat signal. That's basically how he's been getting by all these years. So if he doesn't have that, what does he have? So that was kind of messed up. He needs therapy. So there's also a moment between Alice and Mouse, who is the skin. I like calling him that. So basically, he's the brother figure during her time in captivity, which is the most screwed up relationship. He is very jealous of Alice's relationship with her twin Kate, and to the point where he starts calling her out on it. And there's a weapon that they get in the next episode, which I will talk about in a second, where and this weapon basically is capable of taking out Batwoman. It's like a coil. I forgot the name of it, but it's a coil gun. We're going to call it a coil gun. But it's able to penetrate the Kettner in the suit, in the bat suit. So that comes into play later. The reason I'm mentioning it is because Alice's plan is to go and take it, basically infiltrate the lab that is being built, which just happens to be owned by Katherine, and steal it. And there is another villain that I'm going to bring up in the next episode that's kind of tied in with that as well. But in the planning phase of that, it becomes very, very apparent that Mouse does not trust Alice anymore. Or he's starting to not trust her because he's starting to think that Beth is actually coming out more and not his Alice. So he's very, very suspicious of what's actually going on. It doesn't help that in the episode she starts doing things that are kind of opposite of what he's used to. She won't hurt Kate. She just won't do it. And he's seeing that. And it's actually bothering him a lot. At the same time, we have the dynamic between Mary and Kate. So we learned in episode 5 that Katherine was the one who paid off her specialists to say that the lab work on the bones they found out at the farm were actually Beth's, but they were actually a deer. So they were not human bones at all. And so she basically caused Beth and Beth's mind, or Alice's crazy mind, to be stuck being locked up for 11 years, which is kind of messed up. It is. What Katherine did is wrong. And then they kind of address that again in episode 8 as well. But so because of that, because of the whole situation with Katherine, everything basically is leading back to something happening with Katherine via Alice. But Mouse is kind of like stuck in the middle, and Mary is also stuck in the middle. So there's Mouse, who's crazy, and Mary, who's crazy. They're kind of like almost parallel opposites of the same character. Both of them are kind of there trying to do what they're supposed to be doing, or what they can do, or like the voice of reason in some way, even though Mouse's voice of reason is insane. They are essentially the same character to me. So Mary is really, really, really wants to have a bond with Kate. She's always wanted to be her sister. She's always felt like she couldn't be her sister because Kate was very withdrawn, especially what happened with her twin sister. And then what stuff that happened with Sophie didn't help. So like, Mary has a lot of issues dealing with, basically the news about what her mother did, and of course how she's affected by it, because now she's worried that she won't be Kate's sister. And that's really all she cares about, honestly. She's like, she has her little family, and yeah, sure, she has the dad, who probably has been a dad figure for the past, 5-6 years, however long it's been, but she really wanted to bond with Kate. So that whole thing with her mother really bothers her because of that. If she feels like her mother sabotaged just when she was getting close. And at the same time, when Mary is taking care of Sophie actually talks about how she's going to expose Batwoman. And Mary is the one that says, are you sure you want to do that? Or you want to ostracize and make an enemy of somebody else that you betrayed? And she basically goes on to say, look what you did to Kate. It's not my business, but I mean, you're the one that kind of screwed that up, and Kate had to put an ocean between you. So it's really interesting. She's not only defending Kate, she's also defending Batwoman, and she doesn't even realize they're the same people. So that's why I really like Mary's character, and I think that Kate really does not treat her well, and I really think she needs to get on board with that, because that's very sad, in my opinion. Just be Team Mary. Okay, so long story short, they get the executioner, even though they understand what's happening, even though Luke has issues because he's worried that if that case is true, if what Stanton does is true, that means that all the cases he's ever worked on are not valid. They have to basically release all of the people that he put in jail or reinvestigate every one of them, which is true. So I can see how his father's murderer getting off is a big deal to him, but at the same time, he doesn't stop them from doing the right thing, which I do like. So episode 7. 7, we are introduced to Alfred's daughter, Julia, who in the comic books was mixed like me. So a lot of people I've been reading on forums were very upset that they casted a British white woman because she was a minority in the comic books. But the creators did say they did it because they wanted her to be a fill-in later in the scene for Kate, which I'm kind of on the fence about. I'm pretty light-skinned, so I mean, from a distance especially, that doesn't make sense. But, I'm just going to leave it at that. So in this episode, we have a sniper, the rifler who's there, another comic book character, which I'm not going to compare as well. But he basically has the coil gun, or wants the coil gun for his boss, and Alice is going to sell it to him. The person that designed it, the scientist, they kidnap him, and Mouse infiltrates the lab as him, using the skin that they made and the wig that copies him, using his voice power, to imitate him. So he basically passes Katherine's test when she asks him how he does something, and he's like, that's proprietary information, so she has no reason to suspect that that's not really the scientist. Mouse is even more suspicious of Alice because Alice has not cut the real scientist's throat. She hasn't, killed him. She's actually keeping him there, which is making him feel like, okay, Kate's making Beth come out more. You're becoming good. What the heck? So he's having a lot of issues with her. At some point in the episode, he even pretends to be Kate on the phone. And when Kate mentions, oh, you have a gun out there that can hurt me. And then, of course, Alice is like, no, I wouldn't do that. Why do you think I have it? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, it's actually really Mouse. And now Mouse knows about Kate being Batwoman. So that whole dynamic is completely dysfunctional. And Mouse actually kills the scientist just because he's angry. But she manages to convince him, hey, you're still my brother. You're the closest one to me, blah, blah, blah. So it's that whole level of dysfunction is still very much there. It's just really, it's a very messed up relationship. But other things that happen in this, that we learn in this episode, is what really happened between Sophie and Kate. They have so much chemistry. They really do, especially in the flashback scenes. I really like them together. So we learned that when they were in the military, or military school, getting ready to graduate, they had to sign the waiver saying they weren't lesbians, that Sophie had every intention of telling them to F off. But it was actually Kate's father last minute who gave her advice saying, the military doesn't give a crap about your love. They're going to kick you out. Kate's wild child, she'll be fine, but you need this, basically is what he convinced her of. And since Sophie has been raised by what we already know is a very homophobic and very strict family, she already had that going against her, but then she also needed the money to help support her family. So I'm assuming they're not really well off. So she really needed to stay in school and get into the military. So that's when she decided right then to lie to Kate. Because when she was sitting on the bench with, the father, Jacob, she said, I love your daughter. But, he convinced her that that's not enough, basically. So, yeah, she signed the form and then told Kate that she didn't love her. And then right after that, they were taking the this medal that apparently Kate won as a sniper, or I guess it was like a sharpshooting competition with the other cadets, like 200 other cadets. And she was the one that came up in first place. And she was actually buzzed and hungover, which tells you how good Kate is with weapons, especially guns. And Sophie kind of got on her soapbox and says, you can take all her stuff down, but you won't, basically get rid of her and the impact she's had on all of us. So, she does love Kate. She does, but she can't come out of the closet. She is, as a part of the LGBT community, I know how hard it is to come out. It is a struggle. It really is. My spouse is female and in Korean, and when we told my in-laws, or when my spouse came out, even before me, they acted like they were cool, but then when we got married, it became something else. And so it's just very hard in the LGBT community as a whole to feel comfortable and confident in being who you are. So it's different, and that's really with anybody, but it's just what it is. So I kind of see Sophie in one perspective. She's just not as strong as Kate, and Kate didn't have the drama that Sophie would have with her family, because, she already had a lot of crap going on. Her sister's dead, her mother pretty much was decapitated, her father's gone nuts in a way, married a new woman, got a whole other family. So, I'm pretty sure her being queer really wasn't high on Jacob's priority list to be anal about, with all the other stuff that's already happened. Her losing her twin sister probably was enough. So really, we don't know what Jacob really thinks about it, because he just didn't have, I guess, he couldn't put that on her, is what I'm thinking. So, but yeah, so Sophie is still very much into Kate. And this causes a problem between Sophie and her husband, Tyler, because he did not know about their relationship. And he found out in episode 7, and he was very jealous, which I get. And she wasn't honest, and he has a lot of insecurities now. He's like, okay, not only were you with a woman back in military school, it's our boss's daughter who just happens to be around all of the time and who you keep talking to. I get why he's upset. And I think he has a point. She really did not think that through, and maybe in her mind, she didn't think she'd ever come across, Kate again, so she could live in the closet. But it is interesting, she went to work for her ex-girlfriend's father. So the likelihood of seeing Kate at some point was still there. So I don't know if that was why she went and joined the Crows, or I know he handpicked her, but like that I'm pretty sure she was gung-ho for that position, if it meant being around Kate again. I'm fairly certain, because if you see everything in this season, that's all she does. She wants to be around Kate again. So she finds ways, should I say. So yeah, so her and Tyler have a lot of problems. At the end of the day, the villain who's going to shoot Batwoman for Alice actually does shoot a Batwoman, but it just happens to be Julia, Alfred's daughter, who we did learn had a fling with Kate for a little while right after Sophie. She was like the rebound girl, so that's really hysterical. And she's also friends with Luke. So small world. But she gets shot in the suit, and Kate basically has to rescue her because the Crows have her in the lock, like in the van, and she has to go and get her back. But yeah, so long story short, there was a scene, there's 2 scenes that happen. There's a homophobic scene in a restaurant where Kate was going to tell Sophie who she was, but something happens and she got drawn back to the past where Sophie didn't come out because the waiter basically doesn't want to serve them because they're 2 women on a date. And Kate's all about, I'm not ashamed of who I am, and obviously you still are, so she won't trust her as coming out with the Batwoman secret. So that's when she came up with the brilliant idea to have Julia wear the suit while she was there so Sophie could see them both. Which is what they do canonly. They do that in every superhero cartoon, movie, even some comic book issues that I've seen. They do that all the freaking time. So, wasn't a shock. But Sophie at the end was going, like, she actually was doing this, like, declaration of love before, Julia got shot, thinking that was Kate, about how, she missed her, and, she's, like, important to her, and she doesn't want anything to happen to her. Like, this whole, like, emotional, like, basically spewing love at which she believes is Kate. And so at the end of the episode, she goes to talk to Kate, and it really seems like she's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm confused, but I know that I still have feelings for you. But Kate doesn't let it get that far. She basically says, from what I heard you say to Batwoman, I feel like, you're not over me, and I know I'm not over you, so I think it's best if I keep my distance from you. And so Kate ends it, in a way. And the little box, the gift that Sophie gives her at the end of the scene, because what Kate's doing as revenge against the guy who kicked her out of the restaurant, or tried to, was to open a gay bar right across the street. So she's renovating a gay bar, and one of the I guess, good luck business gifts is the medal that she got at sharpshooting, because apparently Sophie had kept it all that time and Kate didn't know it. So you see Kate actually crying at the end, which means she has emotions. A lot of people are like, she's so wooden, she doesn't react, but she actually did cry, and it actually looked believable. So good job, she's getting better. So yeah, that was episode 7. The only thing I left out was that basically Everybody who has any connection to that coil gun, Alice pretty much took out. So we know she's still trying to protect her sister on some level, but she's still fat crap crazy. And then she does say that they're going to have their mad tea party in the next episode, which is the mid-season finale. And so this is episode 8 we're on now. Episode 8 was messed up. So first off, Mary was trying to get Kate to go to this like humanitarian gala. That's a big thing that's very important to her, but her mother is getting honored there, and so Kate doesn't want anything to do with it. At this point, Mouse is imitating Jacob because they've kidnapped Jacob. While he was out traveling and investigating, they kidnapped him, and so Mouse is imitating him. So Kate doesn't want to go to the gala, and pretty much Mary's like, well, you know, why can't you just kind of forgive my mother because you forgive Alice? And Alice has done like kudos of crap. She's like crazy. She kills everybody. Why can't you forgive my mother? And Kate's like, because Alice is family, which Mary took as like, oh, and I'm not. So she hurt Mary's feelings, which she wasn't trying to do. And then Kate's like, well, my dad's not going. And she's like, yeah, he is going for me. And so she walks away. So it's already foreboding that something bad is going to happen between Kate and Mary, because she just tried very hard to get Kate to bond with Kate, and Kate's always been pushing her away. So this is like the pinnacle episode where like things kind of butt heads a little bit. But so there is a plan, and the plan is very messed up. So during the gala, they have champagne when they arrive, and it is Mouse masquerading as Jacob, of course, Katherine and Mary. Mary and Katherine drink the champagne right before the mother goes up on stage, where she's basically giving a speech, you know, to thank everyone, you know, and talk about the you know, basically how her company has given to all of these places, blah, blah, blah. Well, she gets blackmailed technically, or forced to say, you know, the truth that, oh, I actually make all my money arming criminals on the streets, and then Jacob cleans them up. So we're just like hustling, and we're the biggest con artists there are, you know? And it's like, okay. And then she passes out and her nose starts bleeding. Well, Mary and Jacob get her to a back room, and then Jacob's going to find help, but it's really Mouse. And we learn that this poison that Hamilton has been working on, Catherine's company has been working on, is like this horrible biomedical, like we'll just say it. It's like a man-made biological weapon that starts melting your insides and your lungs and causes all kinds of horrible things like paralysis and breathing issues, and you're basically constricting you till you die. And Katherine is poisoned. And then we learn that Mary is poisoned. And Alice made Mary apologize for what she did, and then gave her this antidote that she had from some flower that she milked to make the antidote. But she only made enough for one, and then Mary's nose starts bleeding. And so Katherine has to make a choice again. She said choices is what, you know, you do. And then Katherine basically has to choose between her taking the antidote and her daughter. And she chooses her daughter. And after she takes it, we also learn that she knew about Mary's clinic the entire time, because Mary was changing clothes in the elevator and there were cameras. So she figured it out. She probably researched it, had somebody follow her. But she was actually proud about her underground clinic. So they had like a mother-daughter moment, and Katherine says that the only reason that she did what she did is because Kate was grieving and she would have never moved past it. And as a mother, she cared about her and she didn't want her to not live her life. And that's why she did what she did, which I don't know is true. It could be. It seems like it was true. It's messed up, but it seems like she did it from a very warped mother's perspective. And then being a mother, you know, you don't like to see your children suffering. So I kind of get it. But it was still a very messed up thing to do. So Katherine's dead. And not only is Katherine dead, Jacob was kidnapped. Batwoman comes to the gala, does not find Katherine and Mary. I still have no idea why. But finds her sister and literally takes her sister by the throat and slams her against the wall when her sister said she poisoned Katherine and she doesn't tell her where the father is, blah, blah, blah. So at this point, Kate's seeing that Alice is far gone. Beth is gone. The hope that Kate has had for her sister in this episode is now gone. And now she can't stand her. So basically, we see the next scene is Mary is walking into her clinic, And Kate's going to try to comfort her, but Mary is not having that because she kind of blames Kate in a way, because Mary has done nothing but be the good sister and do everything she can to be there for Kate and be a part of her life. And Kate spent most of her time getting her demented, murdering twin back, which inadvertently caused the death of Mary's mother. And now Kate wants to come. And Mary makes a comment saying, so was it worth it? Is Alice worth it? And Kate says no. And Mary says, and it's too late. So we already know there's a rift. And what's so crazy about Alice's plan is she also got back to her father. She didn't kill her dad. She got back at him, though, by drugging him, putting him in the car with the poison in his jacket, and calling the cops. So when the cops show up, they think that he killed his wife, and he's in jail. And the season ends with Kate going to visit him. His lawyer got 5 minutes with her, and she says, I hate her. And she's talking about Alice. And both of them are now determined to take Alice out. So, yeah. This episode, well, all three of them were a mess, but the finale was crazy. So, there's just so much. And then we also kind of have a little Crisis of Infinite Earth clip at the end where we pretty much see the formation of the new Harrison Wells, who becomes Pariah. He basically, it's a little short scene they have at the end. And then they've been doing that a lot in some of the episodes, which is interesting because Batwoman really hasn't had a lot of Crisis interaction. So it was kind of good to see a little bit at the end, especially since Crisis starts on my birthday, December 8th, next week. So we needed to have something that's going to tie her in some way, even though this was set in Central City. Or that clip was. So yeah, that should be interesting to see where they go with that. But yeah, Batwoman, there's so much drama. Like, even at the end with Sophie, like Sophie's husband basically tells her, you know, you need to get your crap together and figure out what you want. And I may be here, I may not be. He gave her an ultimatum. And she's so into Kate. There's like no, there's just nothing. I don't understand how they're going to resolve it in this season. But Sophie loves Kate. That's just it. And she's been living this closeted life, and she's so scared of giving it up. Even when Tyler's like, I want kids, and he says, do you love me? She says, yes. He says, are you in love with me? And she says, I don't know. So even when Mouse pretends to be Jacob, and they're like in the office with him going over plans for the gala, the humanitarian gala, and they're shot in the back of the neck and tied up with these darts. They use Sophie's engagement ring to cut the ropes, and he's like, I wish I got you a bigger one, so you know the cutting would go faster. And she's like, well, it's whatever. And he's like, are you sure you want this one back? And she does kind of hesitate, and then puts her hand out, and I'm like, yeah, it's a closet marriage. It's pretty sad. I feel bad for Tyler, and like I said earlier, he kind of isn't that bright because the signs have been there since Kate came back, and he's just not seeing it. And now that he knew that they were, or knows that they were actually in a relationship back in military school, there's no way he can't see it anymore. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I am very intrigued. So yeah, Batwoman's gotten pretty good. It has. At first the writing was a little bit all over the place, but I do like where the plan led, because Alice wanted to get rid of Katherine. Alice got rid of Katherine. She wanted her father to feel bad and pay for not finding her and trusting Katherine's words about the bones. He's in jail. She wanted her sister to herself and isolated from everyone in her family. She's isolated. So everything that Alice set out to do from the beginning of this season, she's accomplished in the mid-season finale. So I don't know where they're going to go from here, but I am very interested to see. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to know who's next on the Nerd Ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys. And if you have time, don't forget to check out some of these other videos.